Good evening. I'll call this meeting of the Cartersville City Council to order. If you'll please stand for our invocation and pledge.
Good evening, everyone. You bow your heads while I pray. Our Father in heaven, once again, we assemble ourselves in the seat of government of the city of Cartersville to do the business of the city. Father, we ask for guidance, direction, and civility as we make the decision best for our citizens of Cartersville, Georgia. We ask these blessings and all blessings in your Son, Jesus' name. Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Drake, the roll, please.
Carrie Hodge, Ward 1. Jay Stepp, Ward 2.
Here.
Carrie Ross, Ward 3. Calvin Coolidge, Ward 4.
Here.
Gary Fox, Ward 5. Elizabeth Cordell, Ward 6.
Here.
Thank you, Julia. We'll make note that the three missing council members all had notified us ahead of time. Actually, Councilman Roth, I know, is representing the city at another event that was scheduled at this time. Just want to make note of that. There'll be three council members and myself voting on items tonight for their passage. First order of business is the approval of our council meeting minutes from April 4th. And council, you've had an opportunity to review these. Now would be the time to make any edits. And if there are none, a motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
I'll vote for the affirmative. Minutes are approved unanimously. I'll ask again in case anybody snuck in. Is there anybody here for Motorcycle Awareness Month? Okay. Well, I have a proclamation here for Motorcycle Awareness Month. You see Logan's got it up there. They're not here to hear it. I'm not going to read it for y'all. Does anybody here want to hear what's in this proclamation? I guess would be the first thing. We'd rather move on to other business. Well said. We are celebrating Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, and we urge all motor vehicle operators to join the effort to keep our highways safe. So we'll make sure that they get that. We'll move on to AZ 24-01, and Mr. Menino, if you will get us started with that.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. First, all the zoning and annexation cases on the agenda this evening all have been properly posted and advertised, and there appears to be no conflicts of interest. This particular annexation request and the following zoning request are directly related. I'm going to try to talk about them both at the same time, but when you vote, which again you're not voting tonight because it is first reading, obviously you will have to separate it. But the request itself is the old Ready Mix USA parcel or 3 tracks. It's been bought by Old Castle APG. I think the purchase was back in 2017. It is a concrete or ready mix plant where they produce concrete products. It contains 3 different parcels. The front parcel along Cassville Road, approximately half an acre, is currently in the city and zoned industrial, and Logan's pointing that parcel out. The parcel we're talking about the annexation and zoning request on is the middle parcel outlined in blue. That's approximately 8.38 acres. And then the third parcel is the parcel to the west there. That is approximately 4.2 acres, is currently in the city jurisdiction. So one to the east and west are both in the city, and the middle parcel where the main operation is for the ready mix plant or the concrete plant is in the county's jurisdiction. This came to us. Old Castle was looking to do some expansion and construction on the site. With it being in 2 different jurisdictions, we had a joint meeting with the county in looking at what needed to be done. It was going to happen easiest if it was all in one jurisdiction. De-annexation didn't seem to be a solution for it. There were some complications involved with that, so annexation, putting it all in the city jurisdiction, seemed to be the best option for that. With that, again, the main parcel in the center has been a plant there since the 60s, prior to the county even having zoning on it, and Planning Commission did recommend approval of the annexation of that parcel and the zoning to the heavy industrial zoning district on that parcel, with a couple of conditions that are listed in your package. Those are dealing with environmental issues. Most of them deal with the parcel to the west, which will be the subject of your next request, the zoning case, from residential to heavy industrial. On that, there is some fill in the floodplain, which they will be remediating, and with that, the applicant was fine with making that part of the conditions of zoning for the following parcel. But again, with that, Planning Commission did recommend approval, and with some conditions on the zoning portion of that request.
I'm trying to scroll back to those conditions, and since I think we have some people here that are wanting to hear that, can you just share, are they lengthy in nature? Again, I've got
No,
it in
no,
here.
no,
I'm just-
no, no.
If you can just share
They
those,
were
it might help
dealing
us
with,
as well.
I believe concrete waste on one of the parcels needed to be removed from the floodplain and disposed of properly. Originally, it was discussed about them having to apply for an inert landfill to be able to do that. The applicant has said no, they would condition themselves to no inert landfill on the property. Additionally, stormwater runoff quality solutions will be required as part of the development regulations when they come through to do their improvements and building expansion, and those are listed out. I believe the folks that were here did get a copy of the package that was sent
Okay.
out also.
Thank you. All right. That being the case, I'll open up. Are there any questions for Randy at this time? Thank you. I'll open up a public hearing for the zoning portion of AZ 24-01 and ask anybody wishing to speak for or against do so time. I know the applicant's coming forward. I will note, if I will, as Randy mentioned, Z2404 is pretty much identical to the request in AZ 2401. So any of the comments that are made in this hearing for AZ 2401 will transfer over into the record for Z 2404. So just so you don't feel the need to get up and say the same thing twice, it will all get recorded in both places. Your name and your address, please, for our clerk.
All right, Brandon Bowen, 15 South Public Square, Cartersville, Georgia. Good evening. I'm honored to be with you again on behalf of Old Castle APG and also Georgia Masonry Supply, which is a division of Old Castle. So Georgia Masonry Supply is currently operating the facility out there. They make segmented block products. If you have built a Jersey wall with blocks that you got from Home Depot, it very well may have come from this plant. If you've been to the new Cartersville Primary School and seen that big wall up there, those were made from products from this plant. That's what they do. And they, Georgia Masonry Supply, due to the demand for the product, wish to add another product line at the facility. In order to do that, they've got to bring in a new piece of equipment, and they need to build a new building to house that piece of equipment. And when they came to the planning staff, city and county planning staff, they realized that they had kind of a mess out there, as Mr. Menino has told you. May I approach over here?
Please. Yeah.
Okay. So this small piece is in the city of Kirkley. It's owned by Old Castle. It's owned by LI. We don't have any application here on it. But really, the only thing that goes on there is getting from Castle Road into the site. The main activity is on this site. It's in the county, not the city. It's zoned A1, which is odd, as Mr. Nino pointed out, because it's been here longer than the county has had zoning. And then we've got this property over here, which is in the city, and it's zoned residential. Now, Old Castle has owned this property since 2017. We can look at the historic imagery. This was created prior to that, but nevertheless, it's a situation that's there now. It has to be addressed, and Old Castle understands that. we have brought these applications to, one, bring this property into the city. It makes sense for all of this to be in the city. One, all of the services and utilities are provided by the city, not the county. And two, is there's just a small island. And in the event that anyone is not oriented to where this is Cartersville Road. We're kind of moving up towards the north side. This is North Irwin Street. Self-recycling is right here. And of course, the spur of the rail line runs along the side there. So, oriented right. So I was retained to get these applications filed and try to get this property all into the city and in the right zoning so that they could move forward with the development process. In addition, we brought Carl Luchins on board specifically to help with the fact that there are some environmental conditions. I say environmental, I mean it's concrete debris that's piled up over there that has to be taken care of, and he is assisting with a plan to remedy that. I'll let him speak to that in greater detail, but consistent with what the Public Works staff proposed, we would like to, once we get through the zoning process, when we submit land development plans, one sheet of those plans would be the remediation plan to get that cleaned up, with the understanding that, you know, if it's not done, certificates of occupancy won't issue and things of that nature, so the city has a means of getting it accomplished in short order. But before I ask Carl to step up, I want to introduce to you Jason Rash. He is the president of Georgia Masonry Supply, and he can talk to you about their business and what they want to do and why they want to do it on this site.
Hello. Hi. My name is Jason Rash. I'm the president of GMS. I'll just tell you a little bit briefly about who we are, where we came from, and I'll start with the bigger picture and then work our way down. CRH is the global company that actually owns GMS and APG, Oldcastle. They're founded in Ireland back in 1970. We'd like to consider ourselves a family of family businesses in Oldcastle. They buy a lot of businesses from families and they let families run them down the road. So it's been a really good experience for me and my family, and I know other families. You can see how big we are, 8,500 employees throughout, North America, 200 locations. And we are the largest producer of architectural building products in North America. So very big footprint. Now the history of GMS and Georgia Masonry Supply, it started back in 1990. My father, JC, actually started it as a single brick distribution location in Lawrenceville. And then fast forward to 2003, we were acquired by Oldcastle. You can see me, Jason Rash. I took over the business as company president, and I'm still in that role today. We've expanded over the years to 13 block paver bagging plants across Georgia, Alabama, and Tennessee. The Cartersville block plant is one that we call a block plant. It produces masonry segmental retaining walls, which are the walls that hold back big land issues up here in the Northwest. You have a lot of mountainous areas, and you got to have retaining walls to develop those lands. So it's a very big product that we use out of that site. The history of Cartersville specifically, we talked about it being constructed back in the 60s, actually 66. We acquired it in late 2017 from Ready Mix USA. 3 generations have actually kind of run that plant since its inception. The current site manager, Todd Pruitt, his father ran it before him, and now Todd's our site manager there now. You can see we've spent quite a bit of money up there, $2.3 million in various equipment and site improvement CapEx projects since 2017. You can see that's the Cartersville Primary School on the right there. That's a big retaining wall that I was talking about. And then, like I said, the Oldcastle's philosophy is acquire business and let the local teams operate to the best of our abilities and support the local communities. Another nice retaining wall job there on Cherokee High School. So like I said, up here in the Northwest, there's a lot of development land that needs walls like that. We sell to products like Home Depot, Lowe's, dealers, contractors, residential, commercial. The North Georgia market continues to be a very, very strong market. It's got a lot of growth potential. It's going to continue to grow for years to come. We definitely, the area needs more capacity for these products. It's very evident our contractors desperately need quicker turnaround on product times and everything else. The project cycles are slower because we don't have enough to give them right now, so that would help. By doing this expansion, we will double the capacity of what we're currently doing out of this location. And then you can see not just the production capacity increase, but we'll be able to basically double the amount of employees here locally that we would have on site at our Cartersville plant. This is just a rendering of what the addition expansion would look like. Can I walk up here real quick and just point them out?
Sure.
The existing buildings are kind of these two buildings here and here, and this would be the new building here with this silo system in the back there. These buildings are already here, these buildings are here, so the only thing new would be really this building and this building here. And then we've talked about the maps already. I think you guys are familiar with this, but you can see just the satellite view of the site, where the new plant's going to go once again. I'll point out if you want me to.
Yeah, if you would,
Yeah.
that's help me get my bearings.
Go back to that. Yeah, this would be the new building there. This is the existing building, this is existing, all this is existing. This is right here. That white area would be the new building.
That's the existing there.
No.
GAC. In there, rendering. There's a rendering.
Oh, yeah, go to the rendering. It's the same. Oh, yeah, so yeah, you're right. It's not thrown on there yet. I was getting confused. Yeah, that's the existing, and then the new one would go right here. So this is the railroad tracks coming here, and the new building would kind of fit back in this area here.
Yeah, it would be behind that. Yeah, Jason, this was more to show like that we didn't develop the back 4 acres.
Oh, yeah, okay. I was gonna say that. You're showing the Google Earth thing. This is the history part of this. Oh, that's the historical image. This is before we acquired it in 2000. We took this from 2006. Now, in 2012, which is 5 years prior to us owning the site, you can see that portion had already been cleared out, I guess. I don't know how that happened or
Yep.
why it happened, but it did. So, but it is what it is now. You know, we own it, so we're going to do our best to do what we have to do to clean it up.
Okay.
Anything else?
Unless you have any other questions for Mr. Rass, I'd like to ask Mr. Lucius to talk a little bit about his proposal for getting this ready.
Any questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And we'll reserve for remainder time.
Carl Lugents, 114 Old Mill Road. I'm also here with Old Castle to talk about some of the engineering issues that are on the site. As it was presented, the site's been a concrete use for almost 80 years probably. And it's not really changed a whole lot in the way it operates or looks in that 80 years. For the most part, the only thing that has changed is the 4 acres that was prior to their purchase that was expanded into, probably not technically zoned appropriately for that expansion by the former user, and Old Castle has been committed to remedy that, and hence is one of the reasons we're here in front of you today. Since they were notified that it was a use that was a non-conforming use on that 4 acres, they took it upon themselves to go out there and find a way to get rid of this. And their initial way was, hey, instead of just hauling all this stuff off to the landfill to take room in our landfill, let's see if someone can take this. And sometimes you can take blocks and crush them and use them in driveways or roadways or bases. And they were able to do that with a certain amount of material, and they told me that they believe by June of this year, mid-June of this year, they may have a large portion of it removed, and anything that, for those uses, and anything after that point, they would just remove on themselves, and they would have to take to a landfill. In order to, obviously, it's a condition of zoning, because there were two conditions of zoning. One, remove the material off of that 4 acres, or apply for a land disposal permit and landfill permit, and they don't wish to do that. They just want to remove it and clean it and be good stewards of the property. So one of the conditions is that they will clean it up, and we're totally fine with it. The second condition is that when we do develop, we will implement stormwater management plan for the area that we are developing. So meaning that they'll add some detention ponds or stormwater ponds and ways to help protect the environment as the discharge from the property. So those are really the main issues. Part of that area is in the floodplain, so they'll remove whatever volume was added to it back out. It's really not an environmental hazard, but it's classified as an environmental issue because it's in a floodplain. So, but there's no real environmental hazard out there. But the goal is to work through that, and we would develop that in our development plans. We would have a plan that was dedicated to that removal and cleanup. If it's not, even if it's not already removed, it will be, and it will be a permitted item at that point. So it will be an enforceable action. I'm here to help them guide through that and meet the city's requirements. I do believe that by the investment of their dollars in a facility like this, it is an improvement, not only for them, but it's an improvement for the area. For an example, down here on Irwin Street, there was the old Knight's Lumber across from Knight's Lumber, where it's now Contract Lumber. That place was, it looked like a bomb had dropped off until Contract Lumber came in and cleaned it up, and they put money into it. And now it's a decent operation. It's a good-looking operation for that area. So I believe that is the same thing that their goal is to make it more, to add a production line, to put money into it, to clean it up a little bit, and to get into a permit to where they meet all the city standards. So, and I'm here. I really want to state, try to hit on the technical items of things, and I'm here to answer any other technical questions you may have.
Any questions?
Thank you.
We'll continue the hearing for the zoning portion of the request AZ 24-01 and ask anybody wishing to speak for or against to step forward at this time.
I'm Guy Parmenter, 114 Cartersville Road. I'm a neighbor to this plant, and if you would go change one slide, can I go over there and point? If you could just say right here, this is my property along here, my home's up here, and on this little stretch here. And so that's where I'm concerned. Through the years, I know this is pretty much the fourth ownership, I think, of that particular property, and operated as a concrete plant of some sorts. What we have an issue with, and would like to include it in the approval package if that is done, is basically we have sound, dust, and light issues, and basically we're right there with all the machinery running, the noise from it, the noise from backing vehicles on the property. Of course, we have the train track, but that's not part of this. But anyway, it's just basically goes on, seems like all night long and all day long and every day of the week. So it just gets old after a while. And I have petitioned a lot, I've talked to a lot of the people around the neighborhood for a long time that basically they complain about, we're kind of in a bowl, they're kind of in a bowl, and everything around it is pretty much hearing all the noise. And so I've contacted, I know at least 10, 12 people in the neighborhood around the area, and basically they all had the same complaint. We had this complaint years and years ago when I say when Jimmy Dellinger and Jeff Davis and myself were dealing with the second owners of the property. So we had to put some pressure on them to make some changes also, and they did. However, you know, you get to the next owner, those are out the window. You get to the next owner, they're out the window. So we want to make whatever we come up with part of that package with the city, that needs to go forward even with the next owner. I will say that the people with this plant, all of these have been real gentlemen, and they have been working with us. In fact, this morning we were out in our field looking across at the plant and coming up with ideas and ways to reduce the amount of the sound and so forth, and the dust and whatever else we had, even to probably planting a whole row of trees either on their side of the property or my side of the property, which the property is really worthless because it's a floodplain anyway. So, so I'm happy that that's being done, but I know I've got one or two others that want to talk about the same subject. So, but I don't want to downgrade them. They are talking with us and trying to help us in what we want.
So in talking with them, y'all are crafting something that's going to be amicable to you and the other property owners in the area?
Will have to be presented to the other property owners. Now,
Okay.
now Miss Lisa here, my next door neighbor, she gets the worst of it because it's directly across from her, and so, and she's on the north side of my property. So it's, I think we can craft something. It's just, it may take a little while to do, but as I say, whatever we craft, I want to see as part of the city's package to say it goes forward these conditions if it sells again.
Okay.
So I'll turn it over to the next person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hello.
My name is Lisa D. Ellis, and I live at 122 Cartersville Road, and I have been living there for 28 years. I'm going to give you a little piece of what I get to hear. At the start, when I lived there, first moved in, the cement plant wasn't much of a problem. It was smaller, and we even used to lay out by the pool and watch the Goodyear blimp fly by. Over the past 18 years, that has changed and has gotten much larger and a problem. This plant operates 24/7. In the past, I have complained to the county, and it was reported to me that they're only supposed to operate during the hours of 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. The company would comply after the complaints, but that only lasted for a brief time. Then they were back to their shenanigans. When you have to buy a noise machine for your child in order for them to sleep throughout the night, then that's a problem. When you can't have a phone discussion while outside in your own yard, that's a problem. When debris and minute particles fill the air, that's a problem. This company is listed as being in the county, but is physically in the city. We've discussed that, and it's surrounded by tax-paying citizens. Cartersville Road, therefore, is primarily residential. It is surrounded by homes and neighborhoods. The reserve at Pettit Creek is just behind them. Historic Atco is to the right of them, and historic Cherokee Cartersville District is to the north. No one dreams of a home blasted with incessant banging, loud mechanical grinding, or the beep beeps of a reversing truck. I guarantee you, you would not welcome this in your backyard, nor would you allow an expansion. Why would anybody consider this? Why would you favor this one company over 1,000 Cartersvillians? If this expansion were allowed, there would be more noise pollution, more air pollution, more light pollution, and more traffic shared by the Cartersville Police Station, the fire department as well, as the ever-increasing population of the city. People living in and around historic Cartersville Road are entitled to enjoy their homes, entitled to peaceful nights of rest, all day, all night, without the grinding noises, the beep beep beeps, and the banging. It's not fair to the neighbors making a living, nor to the school children having to try to get through this through a night and wake up in the morning to do your job or go to school. Everyone needs sleep. If letters were sent to everyone surrounding this company, say Atco, Reserve, and all of the Cassville Historic District, I guarantee you'd have a heck of a lot more people in here to present a protest of the expansion. Please do not consider this expansion. Please do not allow this company to expand into the city and in the green space. It wouldn't be fair to the community or the homeowners. Old Castle has not been a good neighbor and will never be invited to one of our neighborhood Christmas parties. And the people that are buried in Oak Hill Cemetery right across the street, I guarantee you, not even they are resting in peace because of the banging, the mechanical grinding, and the beep, beep, beeps. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll continue the zoning portion of hearing AZ 24-01.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I'm Boyd Pettit. I live at 21 Hillside Drive, which is sort of behind there, within a couple of blocks. I've had an opportunity, in fact, I've got my two zoning lawyers here between Keith and Brandon. They're the ones that I go to for the zoning expertise that's needed in this community, so they'll correct me if I state something wrong here. The one thing I did here tonight that caused me concern was doubling the capacity, which I know what that means of bringing more trucks out onto Cassville Road, and obviously increasing employment means more vehicles in and out. If they're running a 24/7 operation, that does cause me concern as well. And I appreciate both Lisa and Guy and what they put up with. I'm a little more removed maybe than they are from the noises and from the dust. I've watched a lot of zonings take place in this community, and I've been a part of a number of them in terms of seeing economic development and growth in our community. And I think all of you know that I'm one of the biggest supporters of seeing that economic development and growth in our community. I suspect after coming from the Planning Commission and what I believe this council will do will ultimately approve this. What I'm going to ask you to do is think about a couple of things. Think about conditions that you've mentioned in connection with this that came as recommendations. I've seen a lot of non-conforming or grandfathered uses, but now we're looking at not only doing away with grandfathered and non-conforming, but rezoning it to heavy industrial. And I've not heard anybody mention limiting that industrial, heavy industrial. I'll ask Keith, I know he can probably cite it off the top of his head, but all of the uses that would be permitted under heavy industrial. They expand way beyond a concrete facility. And I've not met any of the people from Old Castle. That's probably my fault being a neighbor, but I've not met any of them. But I trust that if they're meeting with the neighbors and are willing to make concessions about noise and dust and setbacks and screening and buffers, that would be great. And I hope Old Castle, if based on their history of what they say, that that's what they will do. But if they turn around and market that property for sale, it's marketed, Mayor and Council, as a piece of heavy industrial property on 8 acres located across from the cemetery, behind Atco, next to the historic district. So what I would plead to you is, between now and when you have your second reading, look at those conditions, because involved in economic development, I know how hard sometimes we look for a piece of property that's zoned heavy industrial because we know what can go on it, but we don't necessarily want it next door to the historic district or in a residential area. So I would just plead with you to please take a look at that. You know, I know there's floodplain. I hear that they are going to do the cleanup, and I know that plans, development plans, will have to come back through. And what I also know about this city is you have some very strict development plans, and you do a great job of enforcing those. And I hope you'll do it in this situation. But think about a heavy industrial tract that is, we talk about in light industrial having 100-foot buffers. I don't know what the setbacks and the buffers are, Keith, in this particular situation, but they could be as little as 20 to 50 feet. And the height of the building could be 50 feet, as I understand it, in this facility. And that's not, doesn't sound like that's what they're proposing. And I appreciate Brandon putting together a very detailed analysis of what they're looking at doing. I don't want to take a lot of your time, but I'm just hoping that between now and the time that you look at this for a final vote, you will consider putting some reasonable conditions on a rezoning if in fact it's granted. And I'll be glad to answer any questions. And again, if any of the lawyers say that I'm wrong about non-conforming uses or I'm wrong about setbacks and buffers, please let me know. I'm not trying to engage you in a conversation, but
no, I mean,
you call me tomorrow. But
no, you're in general right on all those issues. The one thing I did want to state is in the Planning Commission in their recommendation to the council did exclude one allowed use in heavy industrial, which was that no inert landfills would be allowed to be located there. Just to know that they did consider that one.
as I understand under heavy industrial, the scrap metal yard that is next door would qualify as heavy industrial and could move right in if they decided to sell it next door.
Yeah,
now, there are
so
floodplain issues on, because there's
Yeah.
about 70 or 80 acres all total in there, as I recall, all the way down to Mission
They
Road.
would be considered heavy industrial. They would require a special use permit to expand that, however, which is another layer that you would have to go through besides just having it zoned industrial.
But, and of course, with heavy industrial, we see towers, we see pressurized gas, we see a number of things that go into the heavy industrial area. And again, that's my plea to you, is just take a look at that and see if there can be some reasonable conditions. I'm hoping, again, I haven't met them, but I'm hoping they're going to continue to be good neighbors. Maybe a question as to whether they've been up till this point. I've not had problems with them, but I appreciate y'all giving me an opportunity to come and speak.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council.
We'll continue the zoning portion of the hearing for AZ 24-01. If anybody else wishes to speak.
Mayor, I think Mr. Bowen wanted to have a rebuttal.
If you would.
Thank you. Just briefly, we did have a very pleasant meeting with Mr. Parmenter and also Ms. Ellis this morning. There were some concerns that were raised which were new to the Georgia Masonry Supply folks, new issues. Did not know that they were concerns. They have immediately began addressing those, not waiting on a condition to be imposed, but immediately addressing those conditions. We are going to work with them and willing to work with them to fully address their concerns. And I'm also happy to talk with Mr. Pettit about his concerns about, the limiting heavy industrial uses. Their goal is to expand a concrete plant, not create other heavy industrial uses. So that's something we'll be able to talk to the council about prior to the next meeting.
Okay. Yeah, again, a couple thoughts just as I processed this here tonight. Things to consider as you have this conversation with the community. Again, I heard operating hours, and again, I don't know what restrictions or what's going on now, but if there'd be some consideration when speaking with the neighborhood about a limitation of operating hours, that can be put in as a condition. Again, I'm not directing, I'm just kind of saying things to perhaps have conversation starters. Also, I don't know if again, be amenable to limiting the use, a condition that would limit the use of that heavy industrial property to just that use that's currently being done. And perhaps some type of building height limit. Again, these are just from playing off of some of the concerns I heard. I think for the folks that spoke with concerns, I think they're all valid. Here's what I would say is that this is an opportunity, if it is going to be brought into the city, it is an opportunity for us to have a conversation about conditions and have some form of control. It would be just as easy, not giving you all any ideas over there, to de-annex the part that's abutting the property and make it part of the county, and then they could pretty much, we wouldn't have an opportunity to have this, and the city would be pretty powerless to do anything about it. So I like what Mr. Parmenter said at the start. I have no reason to to think otherwise, knowing you and the other folks in the room, is that, you know, over these next couple of weeks, I think there's a real opportunity to have conversations and to come up with conditions that both sides find to be reasonable, so that in a couple of weeks when we do come here, that there's perhaps a set of agreeable conditions that we could add on to this that would make it a win for everybody, and again, address the concerns of dust, light, and noise, and maybe some limited hours and some assurances that would help the adjacent neighborhood feel a little bit more comfortable.
Okay, we will be happy to look into that.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments for Mr. Bowen?
I have a question about the dust and the resident. Does dust settle in your home affect your air conditioner, cause any kind of COPD or anything of that nature? Did you make any kind of study on that or whatever?
But it's on the outside of the house, and it's in the inside of my house, but no health issue.
So to address that, we believe that to the extent there's a dust issue, it's because there is concrete piled on that back piece, and also efforts to move it out. So we believe getting this remedied through this process will resolve any dust concerns as well.
Thank you. Any other comments? You good?
I'm good.
Thank you. Thank y'all. I will close the zoning portion of the zoning request AZ 24-01 and open up a public hearing for the annexation portion of the request AZ 24-01 and ask anybody wishing to step forward, speak for or against, to do so at this time.
We will just incorporate our prior comments.
Thank you.
And just for the record, all the comments are incorporated in the annexation public hearing from the zoning public hearing.
Okay. Very good. Anyone with something new to add relative to the annexation? And seeing none, step forward. I'll close the annexation portion of AZ 24-01, and I'll open up the public hearing for 24-04. And as Mr. Menino had mentioned and given the same narrative, this is part of the same request, that back portion, and that all the comments that were made in the prior public hearings will be incorporated into this zoning request. Is there any other comment regarding specifically the zoning of this piece of property relative to Z 24-04? And seeing none, I will close the public hearing for the Z 24-04. And again, all these will come before council again on May 2nd. We'll have another public hearing opportunity for comment, hopefully some fantastic conditions that everybody's singing on the same page, and then it'll be turned over to council for consideration. So, thank you. Before we move on to the next hearing, we're going to circle back and do a proclamation for Motorcycle Awareness Month. I'm sure y'all are being nice and safe in getting here. So safe that we had already kind of glanced over it, but since you're here, why don't you tell us who you are and why you're here?
Well, Mr. Mayor and council members, sorry for our tardiness. We went to the public safety building because that's where we were the last time.
Ah, gotcha.
And we found out that we were supposed to be here, and we had 4 minutes to get here. So.
Well, thank you for following the speed laws.
Yeah, we did. We did.
We're good.
But and I'd like to thank you for this proclamation.
Can we get your name and your address for our clerk?
My name is Wayne Nunez. I am the president of the Georgia Motorcycle Safety Alliance and chairman of the board for the Gina McLeod Foundation. My address is 411 Old Deerfield Lane, Woodstock, Georgia. And these are some of our other officers here. Donna, Alicia, and Mitch. They live in Taylorsville. But you know, May is coming up quick, and we love it when a city proclaims that May is Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, because that's what we're all about, is promoting motorcycle safety through legislation and education.
Very good. Well, I've got a proclamation I'm going to read real quick, and I'll come down and hand it to you. Is that
Excellent.
all right? We'll do a grip and grin photo, and
fantastic.
I'm sure you'll frame it and sell it on eBay for a lot of money. Whereas motorcycle riding is a popular form of recreation and transportation for thousands of people across the state and nation. Whereas motorcycles are a common and economical means of transportation that reduces fuel consumption and road wear and contributes in a significant way to the relief of traffic and parking congestion. And the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and Motorcycle Safety Foundation have named May as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month, whereas states and motorcycle organizations across the country will be conducting a variety of activities to promote the importance of motorist awareness and safely sharing the road with motorcycles, and remind riders to make themselves more visible to others and not right up the middle of the traffic jam on the, yeah, it happened to me the other day. I wasn't real happy about that. Wanted to make sure y'all stopped that. Whereas the City of Cartersville wishes to promote the safety campaign of the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration in their effort to ensure the safety and well-being of all, and whereas all highway users should unite with others on the roadways and safe sharing of roadways throughout the City of Cartersville, now therefore I, Matthew J. Santini, Mayor of the City of Cartersville, do hereby proclaim May 24th as Motorcycle Safety Awareness Month and urge all motor vehicle operators to join in the effort to keep our highways safe.
Excellent. Thank you, sir.
Can I just say one thing?
Please.
Leading up to May is Motorcycle Awareness Month, actually April is Distracted Driving Awareness Month. So keep off your cell phones.
Very good. For sure. Hard to text and drive on a motorcycle.
I know some people who do.
I guess let's do, actually Logan's gonna do that right here. Logan's gonna use that to all you get.
I'll do both of them right here at the same time. One, two, three.
Good enough for one.
There we go.
Thank you. Y'all are doing nice. Yes, sir. Thanks, sir. Yes, sir. All right, Randy, if you'll get us going with Z24-03, please, sir.
Thank you again, Mayor and Council. This is a proposed rezoning of approximately 9.5 acres from general commercial to RA12, which is a townhome type zoning request. The property is located along Thornwood Drive, just north of Joe Frank Harris and Clubview Drive. It's kind of behind the Microtel and the Floyd Urgent Care there beyond Quick Trip. It is a remaining piece of property from the overall church development that was there, I believe, in early 2000. It's been cut up since then. The main portion of the church is now a mini warehouse facility. And as shown on the display up here, there's one vacant parcel of that general commercial left. It does include the regional pond for that whole little area that was developed years ago. With that, we've had several folks come in, investigate this property, different types of uses that could go on there. It was further complicated by the fact that that portion of Thornwood Drive is private. So nothing's ever occurred on it. No development has occurred on it since then. Now, again, the current owner is proposing a townhome development, has a townhome developer that is interested in it. They're proposing 96 units on that. With that proposal, they presented it to the Planning Commission, and the Planning Commission did recommend denial of this application. I'm looking around and I don't see the applicant here for the request. He was at the Planning Commission. They had their engineer there representing the request for them at that last hearing.
Did you say the entirety of Thornwood Drive is private?
No.
Or just the portion where they would be accessing this
Right.
proposed development?
The portion through the subdivision on the north end is a city road. And then it goes from there down along the mini warehouses back down towards Clubview and Highway 41 there. That portion is private. Half of it is on the side of the mini warehouses to the center of the road, but it's actually easement. So they wanted to propose it as a public road, and with half of the owner, half of it being owned by another entity, they were unable to work anything out over the years. So it's going to have to remain as a private drive.
Is that kind of density for that project, is that a little bit higher than usual?
it is within the allowance of the RA 12 zoning category, but it looks a lot more dense for the fact that that portion of the detention pond is calculated in on it. So they did squeeze additional units in there, made it a little tighter, and makes it look, the portion that is developed is more dense than typical.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Randy at this time? Thank you. I'll open up a public hearing for Z 24-03. Ask anybody who wishes to step forward to speak for or against to do so at this time. And seeing none, I'll close the public hearing for Z 24-03. Council will have another public hearing on this on May 2nd and an opportunity for your consideration. Mr. Roberts, you got the next item. Actually, while you're coming up, Chair will entertain a motion to add 3 items to the agenda this evening.
So move.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And I vote in the affirmative. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, Steve. Come on up.
So I'm looking to have the mayor and council approve the resolution. Basically, the main reason for the resolution is to make sure that everybody understands the intent of the 20% that we would match for this grant, which would in turn be somewhere in the neighborhood of $50,000 to $54,000. The grant being at $200,000. So this is for the restrooms at Pine Mountain, the trailhead, and you know, it's really a good thing to be at that second level. Once most people get to that second level, unless it's just falls through, then most of the time you get your approval. So hopefully we'll be okay. So.
Okay. Any questions for Steve on this? Timeline on approval? I think I might have asked you that last time we brought this up.
I think it's in October, if I'm not badly mistaken. So.
Very good. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
And Ms. Drake, I know you are considering my vote in all these, so thank you for that. Mr. Greer, you've got the next item.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item is the purchase of a new Samsung video management system. This is going to replace our current camera system that we've had for over 10 years. This will give us new features and new abilities like artificial intelligence in our camera system. This will be for all city departments, and total amount is $15,698.40 from Telenet Systems. It's not a budgeted item, but funds are available and is recommended for your approval.
All right, thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Dixon, you've got the next few, please.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The gas system is requesting the purchase of a 2024 Ford F-550 with a service body to support our recently approved 4th crew. Quotes were requested from 3 dealers. 4 quotes were received. Lee Smith of Chattanooga, Tennessee submitted the lowest quote of $97,370 with a delivery time of 8 to 9 weeks. This is not a budgeted item, but will be paid for with gas revenues, and council's approval to accept this quote is recommended.
Thank you, sir. Any questions? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Before you get that next item, Keith, if there's only 4 of us here, can I make a motion? Okay, just want to know. We might get going even a little faster.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael.
Yes, sir. Gas Systems also requesting the purchase of 3 12-inch valves, 2 for the SK America project and 1 for stock. 3 bids were requested, but only 2 were received. Consolidated Pipe and Supply of Lawrenceville, Georgia submitted the low bid of $45,570. This is a budgeted item. Council's approval to accept this bid is recommended.
Thank you. Chair will make a motion Do I have a second?
Second. I
All
don't
in
know what
favor?
your motion is, but I second.
Motion to approve.
All right, I'll second.
Kind of new at this, cut me some slack. I got a motion to second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
And the motion carries unanimously. Next.
Wait until night.
I'm a follower, man. You make a motion, I'm seconding it. I don't even know what it was.
We're also requesting the purchase of two 6-inch filters for the SK America project for the metering station. 3 bids were requested and 2 were received. Bartlett Controls of Waxhaw, North Carolina submitted a low bid of $27,720. This is also a budget item, and council's approval is also recommended to accept this bid.
Thank you. Chair will entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item.
We're also requesting the purchase of 2 4-inch Mooney relief valves, one for the SK America project and one for stock. Bartlett Controls is the sole source provider for this item, and they submitted a quote of $17,552. This is also a budget item, and council's approval to accept this quote recommended.
Thank you. Any questions for Michael on this? If not, the chair will entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries
Thank you.
unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Forsythe, you've got the next few.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. The first item is the flow meter at the water treatment plant that measures the flow coming out of the plant into the city. Is an acoustic transit time flow meter. It's used obviously to measure the flow, but it was installed in 2007 and it has failed. So we need to replace that console. Logan's got us a picture of the console up there. It's a sole source provider, Accusonic is the name of the company. And they've priced it for $42,478. That is installed, commissioned, and a 1-year parts and labor warranty on that. As a budgeted maintenance item, recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Continue on, please.
All right, the next one is laboratory equipment move. In order to move our water and wastewater laboratories into their new laboratory facility, hopefully sooner than later, they have to move actually in 1 day since they'll have actual active samples being run and incubated. It requires a specialty moving company to do all that. We requested quotes from at least 3 vendors. We received only one back for $19,996 from Armstrong of Atlanta. And this is a budgeted item as well.
Is that generally what you anticipated the cost to be? It was in line? I mean, I know you just got the one bid back, maybe a little bit on the high side by
It's
your
a little
reaction?
higher than what we anticipated. We knew it would be high. We've never moved a lab before.
Yeah.
So the one we have has been there since the 70s. But it is higher than we anticipated, and we actually more than solicited. We reached out many times to other companies to come and give us a quote, and we just could not get another one.
Okay, very good. Any other questions or discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Next item, please.
Yes, sir. The next item is, if I'm correct, second reading of.
Yeah, it's actually a series of second readings of 5 different ordinances.
Yes, sir.
That we're handling as one item, so thank you.
Yes, sir. I'll quickly reiterate what they are. The first 3 are mandated by the Metropolitan North Georgia Water Planning District. The first one amends the residential toilet rebate program, makes several small amendments to that. The second and third have to do with the drought management and response requirements and ordinance. It essentially mirrors the state's requirements for managing droughts. The third basically replaces or puts the drought management and response ordinance in place of our current water ban ordinance, so it turns that into reserve. The final 2 have to do with wastewater treatment rates and surcharges for high-strength wastewater from permitted industrial discharges only. There are no changes since the first reading.
Okay. Any questions or discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Last one for you, sir.
Yes, sir. Finally, is a change order number 2 to the lagoon dredging project. Essentially, we ended up with more interest earned than I knew and anticipated for the 2018 revenue bonds, and this is basically the final project to be funded from those bonds. I'm requesting a change order for $1,987,500. It brings the total project cost to $5,356,720. Also adds 214 contract days, but will remove an additional 15,000 wet tons, which at current production rates is an additional 30 years of storage for solids out of our water treatment plant. I think this will finish off our bonds funds, but we'll see when we get there. I'm trying, but it is recommended for your approval.
Thank you. Any questions? If not, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Thank you, sir. Mr. Morgan, you've got this one and then the 2 added items, if you've got those ready to go.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. We're asking for your approval to authorize the mayor's signature on the Invoice Cloud Statement of Work. It is a continuation of the processes that we're doing to have the customer portal and deliver it to our customers to be able to see their billing and utility information. We're requesting approval for that authorization.
Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. Now, this first one is regarding tire cleanup.
Yes, sir. We've got we've been in a quandary for a bit at our city garage. The landfill doesn't accept tires, but at certain times, and it's a short window. And we were able to secure someone to take these tires and save us about $6 per tire and clean up the inventory that we've accumulated at our yard. We're requesting approval for the mayor to be able to sign this agreement. It is for $4,600. We realize it's under what the city manager can authorize, but we need an authorized signature for that, and we're asking your approval. We'd like to get this cleaned up so we can move forward and have it picked up every month.
Okay, thank you. Any questions on this item? If not, a motion's in order.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. And the last one, sir, is a request to purchase a vehicle lift. We're requesting a purchase, we had 3 bids for a vehicle lift, one from Reliable Hydraulics, Atlanta Hydraulics was the second, and A&I Sales. We're requesting to purchase a 30,000-pound vehicle lift, very much like what Logan pulled up. That is the model number, but it'll allow us to be able to, the service trucks that Michael showed earlier and alluded to, once they're fully loaded, they're over 20,000 pounds or close thereabout. Our largest lift is about 15,000 pounds. So we want to be able to from a safety perspective, we want to be able to bring those vehicles in and lift those, and with those jacks, be able to service those in a safe manner. The quote that we're asking you to approve is the low bid and the best bid because of what they include in it. It's for $54,774. We will be taking those funds, I think Dan has alluded to a safety fund, but we have to have that approval.
Okay. Thank you. Any discussion? If not, a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you so much.
This last item you have before you, council, is a resolution asking the governor to veto House Bill 1192. This is a piece of legislation that was passed during this last legislative session that does away with a tax credit for the customers of data centers. One of the main reasons, or one of the contributing reasons, I should more accurately say, for Switch coming to Georgia, expanding in Georgia and coming to our community was because they felt with those tax credits in place, there would be a number of customers that would come here to Georgia to have their data stored and subsequently buy the millions upon millions of dollars in equipment that it takes to store stuff in the data center. Well, after we went through our process and made a zoning decision, and after they've invested about $20 million, the state, again, they passed some legislation that kind of, in my mind, or my opinion, it's a bait and switch. You know, they've kind of closed the door on this. Our local legislation, our local delegation attempted to put an amendment in place that would grandfather in existing companies like Switch. That didn't happen. And while it doesn't put the project in peril, I do think they do have some diminished benefit to being here and some concerns about how to attract customers. That being said, in speaking with Switch and our local delegation, it was recommended that the governor has until May 6th to make a decision on on either signing the legislation or not. And being that this isn't really a good thing for our community, I'd like to pass a resolution from council to send to the governor's office asking him for his consideration of vetoing House Bill 1192. That is the resolution that will be put before you, and asking for your vote to consider that, and after Keith reviews it and has it all in place for me to sign that. So, and after presenting that, I'm going to make the motion and ask you to do it. So do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Thank you. I appreciate that. And I got one last request. Julia, nobody else has asked for this, but Tom Reinhardt has to wait for everybody else to go all the time, every night. I'm going to ask in front of everybody, Dan, Julia, I would like for Tom's financial statement to be at the top of next meeting's agenda, so he can get out here at a decent time and put that little smirk on his face as he leaves, like all these other department heads do as they walk out with him. So, there you go, Tom. You didn't ask for it, but I'm doing it, okay?
I feel honored, thank you.
I agree.
Honorable Mayor and Council, we'll be looking at the February 2024 and comparing to February of 2023. In the general fund, revenues increased over last year by $1.9 million. Expenses increased by $3.8 million. Areas of revenue I look at on a monthly basis, local option sales tax have an increase there of about $866,000. Building permits and inspection fees have an increase there of about $54,000. In the water and sewer fund, revenues increased over last February by $2.1 million. Expenses increased by $10.3 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased debt service expenses, increased capital expenses, and increases to the transfers into the general fund. In the gas fund, revenues decreased over last year by $11.8 million. Expenses decreased by $9.9 million. This is due to increased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased cost of purchased gas, decreased capital expenses, decreased debt service expenses, and increases in transfers to the general fund. In the electric fund, revenues increased over last year by $1.7 million. Expenses increased by $2.6 million. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating costs, increased cost of purchased electricity, increased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. In the stormwater fund, revenues increased over last year by $141,000. Expenses decreased by $11,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, decreased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. In the solid waste fund, revenues increased over last year by $353,000, and expenses increased by $88,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, and increased capital expenses. And finally, in the fiber optics fund, revenues decreased over last year by $927,000, while expenses increased $19,000. This is due to decreased personnel expenses, increased operating expenses, decreased debt service expenses, decreased capital expenses, and increased transfers to the general fund. And on the capital cash position for the month of February, the total unrestricted cash increased, total restricted cash slightly decreased. SPOS accounts, SPOS 2014 balance is $231,991.10. SPOS 2020 account is $12,823,183.68.
Nick, you got anything to add?
The only thing I'd like to add is you see the general fund number significantly increased. That's 16.5 million that we received back from our investment in industrial park, Highland 75, basically for the sale of the land to Q Sales and to the other one, bro, Fuji? Yakult. So that's an investment the mayor and council made decades ago, and it's one of those things that kind of mayor alluded to with Switch. That's an investment we're making for tomorrow, but that's a return on investment that's going to go towards a new fire station and new partial recreation center and all.
And other things.
Yes.
I do have a question. The increased capital expenses in the electric fund, what are we doing this year that we weren't doing last year?
There's a $1.8 million investment in the
Oh, it's the
renovation of the building.
That's
Okay, I was sitting there thinking transformer and type of stuff. Okay, so yeah, that makes sense. All right, thank you. Anybody other questions? You got a comment?
Mayor, not about Tom's wonderful report as usual,
Okay.
but I did want to inform you that the Alcohol Control Board this week did have their hearings on all the sales to underage minors. There were, of course, 11 establishments. 10 of those pled no contest or guilty, and they were appropriately fined and punished by the Alcohol Control Board. The 11th one their attorney submitted a conflict of interest letter. In other words, he had to be in another court that day, so he couldn't be there. So that one will be disposed of at their May hearing.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other business that needs to come before council tonight?
Hello, my name's Jason Trainer. I live at 18 Burke, Hickey Connector, Southwest in Cartersville, Georgia. I want to talk about something that disturbed me. I watched a video of a body cam of an officer in Aikens Police Department. It happened a couple years ago. They went to this person's house and they were fighting. And the cop, instead of going over there saying, "Are you okay?" he interrogated them. And throughout the video, it disgusts me. Seeing the police officer.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you said this is in Cartersville?
It's in Aikens Police Department. I can get more information. I have some of it right here. But I watched that body cam of that officer. And this was about 2 or 3 years ago. It was a couple, and they had a fight in their house. And the police department came to their house and started asking them questions. But it didn't stop there. She said to the police officer, "I don't want you coming to my house or my place." And the officer said, "No, I can go in there." And the woman said, "Well, warrant, you can go ahead and go in there." That's what the officer thought he could do. With the video, I saw the officer throw the woman on the ground. Not only 1 time, 2 times, 3 times, 4 times. And she was unconscious.
I don't see how this is
Well,
germane.
police
I don't see
brutality.
how this is germane to the city of Cartersville
Well,
or
there's some-
to our training where we have a state
Well,
certified police department.
Aiken's Police Department, Mayor, sir. This
I
what
understand,
happened
this
here.
is a business meeting of the city of Cartersville.
Well, the public is open for discussion. I'm here as a resident of Cartersville, and this Officer Williams only got fired for almost killing someone.
What would you like us to do relative to the Aiken Police Department?
Let's have peacekeepers. Let's get rid of law officers, law enforcement, and let's have people that can calmly go to people's houses that get a call and ask them, "Are you okay?" They don't need to ask 30 questions. This woman was bruised. She has a lawsuit now. And no cop has the right to lay their hands on anyone, no matter what authority or power you have. Back home.
I understand that, and I don't agree. I don't disagree with you on that point. But again, you're asking, or you're giving information to us that is not germane to the city of Cartersville. It's nothing that's actionable by us. I would only tell you that we're a state certified police department
Well, the policy
that
that you
has
guys
training.
pass.
And again, I'm saying that your
Understand you
comments
don't
and
care.
coming up here and speaking to us
I know
about
you don't
things
care.
that are from 3 years ago from another jurisdiction are not germane to our police
Can I
department.
finish what I have to say, sir? If a person doesn't learn that rape is rape, murder is murder, killing someone is killing someone. Brutally throwing someone on the ground because they don't want to answer any more questions is disgusting to me. Any police department back home, I had cops harass me. I didn't do anything wrong. I wasn't a criminal. In the mind of a cop, they think you're a criminal. Proven guilty until innocent in court of law. It's backwards, sir. As a mayor, your service, your duty is to protect the citizens, not to have the cops go on the highway and confiscate people's money, even though if they didn't commit a crime. All money, no matter where you get it from, has a substance of cocaine and crack on it, has drugs on that money, because it's been through so many hands. That's the truth of the matter is, when cops go on the highway and confiscate people's money, did they commit a crime? As a mayor, it's your job to protect and serve, not to harass, not to take side of a law enforcement, even though if they didn't commit a crime. And it's sick to me. I watched that whole video, and we live in this world where people don't give a damn about human rights. And what I'm saying to you is protect and serve, sir. I don't want anyone, law enforcement, or any powerful person to stop my freedom of speech. As long as I don't do violence and threaten people, I have a right. Thank you very for your time, sir.
Thank you. Any other business that needs to come before the city of Cartersville? Chair will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Stay gold.
Second.